Hey everyone, it's Abby Emiot here with Dr. John Bell from Welsher Presbyterian Church in Denver, Colorado. This is Tabletop Theology, a lighthearted conversation about serious topics. It's our third and final special edition Christmas Tabletop. We're not doing one next week because it will be Christmas Eve.
So we've done angels, we've done the wise men, and today what are we doing?
We're going to talk about Mary today.
Mary!
Yeah. She's kind of a big part of this story, so let's talk about her.
Oh my gosh, what do you want to talk about, Mary?
Well, some people really love Mary. Some whole denominations really love Mary, and I think it's important to understand why. I know as a person who was raised Protestant, I don't always understand particularly Catholicism's view of Mary. And then I want to talk about her Magnificat too.
Oh, okay.
So let's do that.
Well, you are absolutely correct that you and I are Protestant. We grew up Protestant, and Mary is really not a big part of our theology. Mm-hmm. We talk about her at Christmas a little bit, maybe at Easter, because she was around the cross and Jesus said, "Woman, behold your child," which was not an insult to say woman. It was actually an affectionate thing. So Mary plays a role in the Bible, and Protestants love the Bible, but in terms of our theology, not a big role. But for Catholics, Mary's a big deal, and I'm uncomfortable, speaking about Catholic theology, but there's a misconception among Protestants that the Immaculate Conception is Jesus. It's not. It's Mary.
Oh.
Yeah, Mary was immaculately conceived because it was important for Catholic theology for her to be sinless. That Mary had to be sinless so that Jesus would be sinless. And that's not a part of our theology at all. It's not necessarily in the Bible. But, if you cling to a biological transmission of sin, which Protestants don't, and certainly modern Protestants don't, if sin is transmitted biologically, then you have to back up through Mary for Jesus. So that's part of it. They Roman Catholics call her, and Calvin did too, to be fair, Theotokos, which is the mother of God. That's a pretty high claim, the mother of God. And they venerate her under those grounds. And Karl Barth, one of the Protestant theologians of the 20th century, said, the problem with the Roman Catholics is their veneration of Mary. They worship Mary and push her to a higher level than the Protestants, where they even call her co-redemptrix, which is, co-redeemer. If Jesus is the Redeemer, in their minds, Mary is a co-redeemer because she was part of the creation of redemption. So again, a huge role for Mary in that. And now to the Protestant critique, in my mind, we wanted to be, anti-Catholic, so we kind of rejected a lot of that stuff because we're not Catholic, and so we sort of shun those kinds of things.
Yeah, we only really talk about her like a vessel. We don't really talk about her very much, I feel like.
Well, we really don't. And on a critical nature, I hate to say it as a white, older man, but, the rejection of some feminism here could be a part of what historically has happened. And maybe we downplayed her role because, throughout the history of the church, it's been mostly white men white older men, although I'm not old, uh, have interpreted these stories for the Protestant church. So I think we do have I think we should take a little humility towards the Catholic high dogma. And I think there is a place for an increased role in Mary in our theology, as there is for all the women in the Bible. So hats off to Mary today. I had never, I've heard all my life, say 5 Hail Marys, or, priests say 10 Hail Marys. Well, I had actually, until today, never read the Hail Mary prayer. Have you
Oh,
ever?
I
Have
have
you?
not. No.
I mean, that's how distant
Yeah.
Protestants are from Mary.
Mhm.
So I pulled it off the internet. It's Hail Mary, full of grace, which I could have told you that far. The Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, which we believe, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, Theotokos, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. So that honestly is the first time I've actually known what the Hail Mary prayer
Mhm.
is. And
Lovely.
again, that's a confession that the whole theology of Mary is pretty far away from Protestants.
Well, I just remember, I don't think I was too into adulthood, but I never thought of her as young as she probably was, and how terrifying her story must have been as an unwed woman to suddenly be pregnant. So I think we just don't, even as a woman reading the Bible, she's not generally one of the first female characters. We talk about Esther, we talk about Ruth, we talk about some of these other Mary Magdalene stories, but I don't know if that's just because of the Protestant rejection of Catholicism, but I don't really remember talking a whole lot about Mary, the mother of Jesus, very much growing up,
No,
apart from she gave birth to
no,
Jesus.
and we've obviously been moving through the Advent and Christmas season, and as I said in my sermon last Sunday, it gets all confusing which Sundays are which.
Very hard.
We've been dealing with the Christmas story all during Advent, which normally we separate. So in a true, liturgically pure Protestant church, we actually don't have time to deal with Mary. We do John the Baptist, and we might do Gabriel, and we might do the Magnificat, but then we cut to the Christmas story. So this has been great. I think it's been a good learning for me, and there's so much there we can do in years to come. So check that up as maybe a good thing for COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's unlocked the Christmas story in a new way during Advent. But you're right. The women of the Bible, Sarah and Ruth and all these people we hold up, Rahab even. But Mary doesn't.
I've lost you, John. 1 second. Okay.
Am I here?
Yes, you're here now. We're
Am
back.
Am I on mute?
No, we're all back. Recording going. We're good.
Reminder to the viewers, we're unscripted and lighthearted.
And lighthearted. And I'll try to edit out some of where we're phrasing. Put it back in.
Outside of Ephesus, actually in Ephesus, which is modern day Turkey, there's a belief that that's where Mary went to live with John, the apostle, after Jesus' death.
Mm.
And then I think it was the 18th century, they found a house which seems to be potentially Mary's house, or at least where Mary was venerated for centuries. So a lot of historic cachet. And I remember going there the first time. I've been there a few times, and what struck me as odd is there's actually chewing gum all over the building. And I remember asking our tour guide at that time, why is there chewing gum? He said, because people want to leave their saliva, part of themselves, part of their biological processes, literally on the house where Mary was. And I thought, A, that's gross, but B, that's touching. I mean, they want to be part, literally physically part of Mary's story. And, I've never been wrapped up in a theological, intimate way with Mary, but I do believe that there's a whole lot there we Protestants could dust off and uncover and see the feminine side of God.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Can we transition to her Magnificat, please?
Oh my gosh.
Because I don't really know a whole lot about it, and I would like to learn.
Well, the Magnificat, the angel appears, Mary has the Annunciation, and that she's going to have the Christ child. And then she sings her Magnificat. And Magnificat is the Latin word for magnifies, and that's the first word in the Latin, the Vulgate translation, Magnificat. So like Shakespeare or Elizabeth Browning, the first word is what defines the poem. And, people love Mary. People, she was probably 12 to 14, 15, young virgin. And, again, think of yourself as that age, very impressionable, very naive, very innocent. And she sings an entirely powerful song, which people love, but then when you read it, if you're an American, white, Anglo-Saxon, Protestant, 1%er, which most of us worldwide considerations are, it is terrifying because she sings about it's a reversal of the power structure. She sings about the powerful God or Jesus will scatter the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. Scatter the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. We try to raise our children with self-esteem and to be proud of their heritage and proud of what they've accomplished, and to think this Messiah is going to scatter the proud is pretty potent. And then this Jesus will bring down the powerful from their thrones. So again, we know the biblical story: Caesar Augustus, Herod, Pilate, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. We know Jesus upturned the powerful hierarchy with his resurrection and defeat of death. But instead of respecting the power structures that be, Jesus, Mary sings, he's going to bring down the powerful from his thrones. He's going to bring a revolution. He's going to restructure the way the world is. And then he's going to fill the hungry with good things. Sounds great. We love that. We do a lot of hunger task force things at Welsher. I think feeding the hungry is one of the best things we do, and I hope we do more and more and more as we strive to be a Matthew 25 church and work on structural poverty. But Mary says, and he sent the rich away empty. Sent the rich away empty. All middle-class Americans, all upper-class Americans, all upper-class Americans, this should at least send a little chill through our spine, because it's not just that Jesus feeds the hungry, he sends the rich away empty. A total reversal. So that's the beginning of the gospel before Jesus is even born. And then, of course, you get into those verses like the first shall be last and the last shall be first. He separates the sheep and the goats. The goats, had great things, and their sin away, and the sheep don't even know they've done good. The whole gospel is about a reversal of the way things are on earth. So this is a song about injustice. And Mary, as young as she was, as idealistic as she was, maybe as naive as she was, sings about injustice, and that the coming of the Lord will install a justice which challenges the status quo. And, in this day and age, when we read the newspaper and things are so hard and difficult and challenging, the fact that things one day will be just is a very comforting thought.
Agreed. And how lovely to have that in his mother, kind of a premonition of sorts of the Sermon on the Mount type story. Like, it feels very mirrored and lovely.
Very lovely.
Yes.
So this is before his birth. So Mary understands, because the Annunciation, what she's in for, she understands this is a special child, and she stays with him until the cross, until the end. And it's a beautiful story of a mother's love for the Son of God.
Beautiful.
One little thing which I think is worth mentioning is that in the Quran, in the Islamic holy book, Mary actually gets 2 full chapters,
Oh,
which is actually more than she gets in the New Testament.
fascinating.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So she's venerated in Islam as well, and is considered, from what I picked up, like the role model for women in all ages. Like the woman. So I think it's important where we find commonalities with other religions, but Islam holds Mary up as a true saint and a role model for all women and all people.
I have an unscripted question about this.
Oh,
Because I don't know, how many children do we think Mary had? How many siblings did Jesus have?
Yeah. Okay. It's getting late. Our time is...
Might have to go look that up.
No, that's a great question.
I know there's 2, right? Like James.
James, the brother of Jesus. I know that. And what's the other one?
There's a few more. He might have some sisters. She was young. She probably had more kids.
Yeah. Well, you'd have to call them half brothers, half sisters.
Siblings, right?
But yes, that was not Mary's only child. And you caught me on a theological, biblical gotcha question.
So sorry. Well, I didn't know either. It wasn't supposed to be gotcha.
What we haven't talked about is the virgin birth.
Yep.
So Abby, would you explain that for our listeners?
Well, my opinion might not be right. So, I have a hard time with this because, frankly, to me, it's not a do or die biblical literalism point for me. I know for some people it really is, so I totally respect that. But I've heard that it really doesn't. And to me, it's not like the end all be all if she was a virgin or not. I get the hope of that it makes it clear it was God's son, but yeah. What are your thoughts on it, John?
Oh, stop, Abby. Well, it's in the Apostles' Creed, of course. I believe in the virgin birth. So it is an important historical doctrine. However, you and I are not fundamentalists. By fundamentalist, I mean the virgin birth was considered a fundamental. meaning you had to believe it in order to be a Christian. Not being a fundamentalist, I believe Jesus saves, Jesus is the Redeemer, Jesus is our Lord, and trust in Jesus is what's important for Christian salvation. So I don't consider it, the virgin birth, to be a fundamental necessary to believe for salvation. I think it's an important doctrine because it does suggest that the Bible is faithful and true, that the prophecies in the Old Testament are important.
And it was miraculous and
Miraculous,
beautiful.
his birth was miraculous. But you do come into a conflict, obviously, with science at this point. And I respect scientists, I respect nature. However, scientists sometimes are wrong. Nature
And God can work outside of the bounds of that, I suppose.
I will not discount the virgin birth based on science. However, I respect those who might be inclined to do so.
I think that's exactly how I agree with you, because I feel like God has proven He works outside the bounds of science often.
Right.
But I do believe in the virgin birth. I don't think I have to be a Christian, I guess is where I get to.
I'm going to go with that. I love the story. I love the virgin birth. I love the prophecy. I certainly hope it's true that God came to us through Jesus, through Mary, in a miraculous way. And but my faith doesn't rise or fall based on the biology of that. And again, throughout most of the history of humanity, at least the Christian Western, sin was transmitted biologically, which again, Protestants don't believe. So if sin is not transmitted biologically, then then the Immaculate Conception of Mary and the virgin birth of Jesus are not necessary for us to believe Jesus was sinless, right, or lived a sinless life, which we all universally 100% do believe. He was like us in every way, yet without sin.
Well, it is interesting the Bible's focus on Joseph's heritage, considering he had rather little to play in the actual, based on the story. So I think it's interesting because I definitely can see even in the Bible two sides of that. Joseph still played an incredibly important part in the prophecy and who he was. So, and was overall, he listened to God and the angels in the dream. So good on him for not turning Mary into the street, I guess.
So it's a great story. Mary's a wonderful biblical character, and true confession, I wish we did make more of her. But again, we're not Catholic. We are Protestant, and worshiping Mary and putting her on a sinless pedestal is not something Protestants are wont to do. But
maybe we'll hear a sermon from you next Christmas.
Even during Advent.
Maybe during Advent. Love it. She had to do 9 months of waiting, so I feel like it can fit pretty well in there.
Yeah, 9 months.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John, and thank you all for tuning in today. We will see you after the holidays. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a happy 2021.
See you soon.